Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Thursday, November 11th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Moore. The Purdue game is in 2 days. The game against Michigan in 16 days. Ohio State is starting what could be one of the biggest four-game stretches in program history right now. They will end the regular season with games against top 10 opponents in Michigan State and Michigan, and then potentially play in the Big Ten championship game. But it all starts with a game this Saturday against Purdue. The Boilermakers hold a unique spot in Ohio State's history, especially recently. Since 2004, they have 4 wins over the Buckeyes, despite playing just 9 times over that span. That is the same number of wins over Ohio State as Penn State has, even though the Nittany Lions have played the Buckeyes twice as many times over that span. And I probably don't need to tell you that the Boilermakers have 3 more wins over Ohio State since 2004 than Michigan does. But it's nothing personal. Purdue exists basically to, 1, put guys on the moon, 2, have a bunch of wind turbines near campus, and 3, ruin top 5 teams' seasons. The Boilermakers have more wins as an unranked team against top 5 opponents than any other program in college football history. They have 17. No one else has more than 11. Buckeye fans may remember the 2018, 2009, and 1984 games in West Lafayette for just a few examples. So given that history and the fact that Jeff Brom's team has already done it twice this season, first to Iowa and then to Michigan State, it's something the Buckeyes are well aware of. But they know they really can't take anyone lightly from here on out. Here's Ryan Day discussing that this week, courtesy of the Ohio State University Athletic Department.
When we went into the bye week, we looked at all 6 games. Usually we don't look ahead, but that's an opportunity to do that. And we knew what this stretch was going to be like. And we have respect for everybody. And we also know that it just takes one game and you're out. And we've been saying that. And doesn't matter how it looks. We got to win. And we keep winning, then a lot of good things are going to happen. Now, as we look at the film, we realize a lot of things we can clean up, and we can play better. We can play better, but we just have to win these games. And here's another example of a team that has, like you said, beat Iowa. They beat Michigan State last week. They have a top 10 defense in the country. Really, really dangerous on offense. Have really good players. And so, our guys understand that. I mean, they're tied for first in the West. I mean, they're 4-2 with the rest of those guys. They're 4-way tie, and so they're playing for a chance to go to Indy. So they certainly have our attention. Very, very good players and very good scheme.
All that historical stuff is interesting, at least to me. But what is it about this Purdue team in particular that has allowed them to beat not 1, but 2 top 5 teams already this season?
Well, I think it starts with their defense. When you look at their front 7, they do a great job. I mean, statistically, they're one of the top teams in the country. Karlaftis is one of the best defensive ends in the country. He's really strong. But they have a bunch of good players, and I think it starts with the defense. But then on offense, certainly Jeff has done a really good job and has for a bunch of years. They scheme you week in and week out, try to find creative ways to attack you, and they have good players. I mean, David Bell and they have a whole bunch of them. So I think he's done a really good job. I think maybe last year, I don't remember what their record was, but coming off of COVID, it's just there were so many different variables, but. They certainly, did a great job in the offseason, kind of regrouping, and then they're a good team.
Jim Tressel used to say that September was for pretenders and November was for contenders. The Buckeyes are still very much contenders for the Big Ten title, the playoff berth, and the national title, which would seemingly make this a pretty big month. But that's also a lot of pressure. So how are they dealing with all that?
Well, I mean, our number one goal is to win, and that's all that matters to us. Certainly, we want to play at a high level, and we have a standard that we play to. And if we don't do that, then we come back and try to get it fixed. But the number one goal is to win. And I think college football could maybe be the only sport in the world where it matters sometimes how you win. And we can't get caught up in that, because when you start getting caught up in that, that's how you lose. And so our number one goal is to win the game. And if that means we got to win by 1 point, we win by 1 point. And if we have to apologize for winning by 9 points on the road at Nebraska against a really good team, then life's pretty good. But at the same time, we also have a standard that we need to uphold. And it's about us. It always has been about us. And I would say that we didn't play to a high enough standard in that game. We could have played a lot better. But it was a gritty win on the road, and we're proud of that, and we move on. And I think when you see the teams who are playing in November who continue to win, good things happen.
One thing we've sort of figured out about Ryan Day over the last year or so is that he's at least a little bit superstitious. He shaved his beard at the start of the season for luck, but then grew it out again after the loss to Oregon. So it wasn't a big surprise when he was asked about place kicker Noah Ruggles, who is perfect so far as a Buckeye. What does Ryan Day say to him before he goes out and takes the field for a big kick?
No, I stay away from him. He came in and from the jump he's been nothing but professional. And that's what you really appreciate about those guys. Jesse's the same way, Brad's the same way. Really low maintenance. If you're having to deal with the specialists and having to coach those guys up, that's usually not a good thing. They kind of take care of themselves, and they're kind of on a different program, and they understand that, but they understand how important their job is. And so, you're going to need them in November. It's going to be important. They're playing well, but they got to continue to.
Day had a really interesting answer on why he likes guys who play multiple sports. There are a lot of them on the Ohio State team. DeJuan Jones was a very good basketball player, for example. Both Ronnie Hickman and Bryson Shaw were outstanding lacrosse players as well. So why does Day view that as important? You'll hear his answer, and then you'll also hear from Ohio State offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson on that same topic.
I love multiple sport guys. My son was in, I think, 5th grade when a coach told him, you need to decide what sport you want to play. And I almost jumped through the phone at him. I think the more sports you play, the healthier it is. You're learning about how to compete. You're learning how to lose. You're learning how to get better. You're learning about discipline. You're learning so many different things, and you're learning different skill sets. I think spatial awareness, hand-eye coordination, foot quickness, all those things in basketball are tremendous. And I look at it a lot. When we were on the road before COVID, when we would go out in December and January, mostly in January, when we'd go to see some of the underclassmen that we couldn't have contact with, love going to basketball games. It's like one of my favorite things to do on Tuesday nights across the country is go see a guy compete. You get to see how he's coached. You get to see how he lost by 20. What's his attitude? Is he kicking stuff and yelling at his coach, or is he encouraging his teammates and trying to figure out, running back on defense and trying to take a charge and late in the fourth quarter down by 15? You just learn so much about people in those environments. You get to see them in their setting. How do their teammates treat them? How do they compete? How do they move? I love seeing that. I think you learn a lot about people. Not that it's 100%, but you get a good snapshot into kind of who they are.
Having coached in the state of Indiana, every time I saw a 6'5" kid, if he didn't play basketball, I said, "What's wrong with you?" Because you grew up thinking you were going to, be the next Larry Bird or something. So I know there's a lot of great trainers, a lot of kids train year round. But years ago, Coach Walker was this way years ago when I was a young coach with him. I've heard a lot of great coaches like Coach Saban. I think the competitive environment, having to make a free throw in the game's on a line or step into a batter's box, or not have a false start on a 100-meter or a fault on a throw, to put stress on yourself, to have to compete, have to practice. You got to train, you got to develop the sport. But I think the really great, to me, if you can play a defensive back here at Ohio State, you can play high school basketball. If you're a wide receiver at Ohio State, you can play high school basketball. So I love it when in my room coaching tight ends. I love tight ends that play multiple sports. I think it helps them become better players. I think it just helps round them out as a person, as a student, as a high school athlete. And I just think the more competitive environments, our kids learn how to handle success and failure, how to handle coaching, how to deal with all the different situations with different coaches, different sports. I think the more you play, the better. And I would encourage every young parent in that's raising kids and wants them to play a certain sport, play as many sports as you can. The more, the better.
Wilson is always someone who gives you interesting and detailed answers to questions, which makes him a fantastic interview and someone that I think everyone on the beat pretty much looks forward to talking to whenever they get a chance to. The offense has not been able to run the ball nearly as well in the last couple of weeks as it did earlier in the year. So is Wilson concerned that the line is not getting enough of a push up front? You're going to hear an answer on that. You'll hear why I say it's interesting and detailed, and then you'll hear a follow-up from Bill Landis of The Athletic.
Yeah, I'd like to, I think it needs to be better. I think the last 2 weeks, the teams we played have done like a lot of teams are going to do, have blitzing up. There's a lot of lateral movement. With that, I think we went laterally and done some things targeting guys, but not gotten the vertical push. So, and sometimes maybe it's the scheme we're calling. Some of those plays are more internal, and you want them to go forward. Some a little bit more, outside oriented, where they're a little bit more of a, the old word would be elephants in a parade, and they're kind of just, ganging things up and kind of rolling a little bit. So maybe there's not the push there. But in general, I make a lot of times we're watching videotape, and I'll go back and say, watch the sideline. Okay, the ball's on the 20-yard line. Where are we at? Are we on the 19, the 20, the 21, the 22, where are we at? Because when you sit there and watch it behind, you can get skewed. You can see like who's got who, but do I have you going that way? And the object, even when you're running stretch plays, the object is you've got to get vertically down the field at some point in time. If you go sideways, you're not going to run the ball. So we've talked a lot about it. Last 2 weeks with the defenses we've had, we've not done as good as we need to. It'll be a challenge this week because Purdue's strength is their front, their D-line, and in the weeks to come. So we've got to do a better job. And whether it be maybe it's also in play calling or scheming, the schemes we're doing to give our players a chance to get more vertical. So sometimes that might be us in decisions that we're making in the calls that are being made.
Is any part of that, or can any part of that be the fact that you're playing some bigger bodies at guard too than maybe a team would typically play?
I do believe sometimes you can be. Myself being an old 6-foot center, I believe that you can be a little too tall at certain positions because there is leverage on every block. There's leverage on every pass block. You have to be able to play low and all that. But at the same time, those guys are good knee benders. And again, we just got to do a good job of getting more vertical push, whether it be, again, the schemes that are called, the plays that are called, the running back trusting the scheme. And we just got to get a little bit more, not necessarily downhill, old-fashioned ISO running, but we got to come off the ball better. And tight ends, everybody, we got to come off the ball better.
The offensive line was a big topic of conversation with Wilson. He was also asked how surprised he was that the seeming step back that the line has taken in recent weeks, and how confident he was that they could get it all fixed. You will hear, once again, a very detailed answer from Wilson, and then a follow-up from Bill Rabinowitz of the Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, we cut a few guys clean in the 2 games ago against Penn State with some of the movements and just didn't stay on track and targets. We're a little bit better last week. And I think if you go through and you can look at the numbers, but there's a handful of those plays that are actually blocked really, really well. They're RPO thrown. I kept saying hand it, but we're throwing it to Jackson for 12 and 14 yards, which is a good play too. So, I still think I look at in the 6 conference games, we're over 5 yards a carry. Last week we had a lot of 3 and 4s. If you keep sliding, I think the thing that doesn't concern me is I've noticed in the last couple games in the fourth quarter when we had to run the ball, we did. And I think we can just stay patient, stay with it. At the same time, we're going to be aggressive in what we do. The first 4th and 1, Coach Day is going to be aggressive and sound. First 4th and 1, we knew they were going to be in a max blitz. We got it protected. We got a one-on-one, and Jeremy doesn't make a competitive play. But it's what we wanted. It's exactly what we wanted. And we made a great throw, and he didn't come down with no challenge play. At the end of the game, I think we're on the 20-yard line. Got a coverage we want. We got Chris Olave for a touchdown, and our protection's been so good this year. But on that play, Thayer and Nick and talking didn't get communicated cleanly. We got split. We got flushed, almost had a fumble. And that's an aggressive call. And everybody said, but Coach is going to be aggressive, but it's aggressive sound in what we're doing. We want our players to play that way. And I think we can run the ball better. We got to run the ball better. But I think down the stretch, we've ran it well when we had to, and everybody knows you have to run. Here comes some good runs. So I think it's there. Let's just get a little bit more consistent. Let's clean it up in our practice and what we're doing, and maybe putting them in better positions in practice. Let's do a better job of myself and Coach Day working to get maybe some cleaner calls for our guys and get that ball in 32's hands when we need to. And at the same time, quarterback's playing well. We're going to throw it around. There's pretty good balance. And when we get clicking really good, we're really good. And sometimes there's some rough. You got to win ugly once in a while. You got to be able to when you can't make a shot, you just got to keep fighting through it. So we're going to fight through the run game. It is the time of year in November. You got to run the ball. You got to run the ball in the Big Ten. We got some great playmakers. We'll keep throwing it great. We'll keep doing our best to protect great. But we got to run the ball well down the stretch to be the team we need. And we've been working at it. And last 2 games a little off, but I think it's things that are correctable. And I think we're all a part of the problem. Sometimes it might be a play call or suggestion that Coach Day or myself want to do. Sometimes it might be the execution of the tight end at the point of attack. It might be a backside block. Running back might miss the cut. It's a collective piece, but it's I think very it's concerning because we need to be better. But I don't think it's worrisome that we're not going to get it right.
Speaking of situations where you might want to run the ball, you had the ball at 34, under 2 minutes to go. Called the pass play that CJ got stripped of the ball. Has there been discussion in the coaching room about whether that was the right call? Or how would you?
Well, we got our guy. We got the coverage we wanted, play we wanted, had a touchdown. Chris Olave's wide open on a double move down the seam on quarters that we wanted. And we just, again, you expect our guys to run block the well. Well, they've been great pass blocking, and that's the play where, again, I'm saying that we didn't execute our protection well with Thayer and Nick on the same page on a little backside slide, and we just got a little crease. And, it was aggressive, but it was sound. It was a 4-man rush. It was a play designed to attack a coverage that would be there. It was there. I think the fourth play of the game, we got Chris on a wide open post. We break down in protection. The coach is making an aggressive call. So sometimes the calls can be better on our part. Sometimes the execution can be better. We're clipping along pretty good. We're not perfect, and not every call is going to be perfect. But I think Ryan does a phenomenal job of being aggressive, but sound. And we're going to trust our players to make plays. We didn't execute a protection cleanly, and they got to do a better job. We're not mad about it. We're counting on them. We know they will. And that time, we didn't. We're counting on Jeremy making a great catch on a fourth down, and the ball was delivered and didn't come up with it. Their kid made a nice play. Jeremy's got to make the play, but coach was going to be aggressive. Good call. It didn't work. When you're calling plays, you got to have the courage to take the criticism if it doesn't work. Those are sound plays that we didn't execute, and we'll keep at it, and we'll keep that running game coming too.
One of the great things about talking to Wilson is that when something looks wonky on Saturday, you can just ask him and he'll give you a straight answer to something you've probably been wondering about. So this week, one example was there was a swing pass out to Mitch Rossi along the sideline where he didn't get much blocking help. And it was like, why would you throw the ball to Mitch Rossi in space when you've got all these other playmakers? That was a question a lot of people were asking. Well, here was Wilson's explanation. And then you'll hear a follow-up on RPOs from Doug Maurice of Cleveland.com.
No, that was, we actually had a spread run that based on what was going on. If it was loaded, we had quick outsides, we had inside deep throws, quick outside throws, and a run. And it was a combination RPO play where we could run it. We could, if we saw blitz, max up and take a deep shot, and if they bailed out, it was to throw a quick one. And Mitch happened to be by rotation just in the game as the tight end. So that could have easily been to Jeremy or to Cade, but by rotation and just, kind of keeping the guys fresh. Mitch was in, so he was what we call, he was the now guy. He was the quick guy. There was another, our receiver to the field was a quick guy. We had two deep throws, and we were running an internal run. It was basically an RPO play.
What you said about the offensive lineman, sometimes it looks like in an RPO, man, you blocked it up pretty good. Oh, that would have been a great one to hand it off, right? But you threw it and got a gain there. RPOs obviously are so prevalent everywhere now, have been for years. Are linemen all bought in on RPOs, or sometimes do they just still want to run the ball, let us run block and get downhill, and are they ever frustrated by, man, we blocked it up really well there, and then it was a throw?
I think sometimes the coach and coaches that like to have the running back that wants, the yards per carry for his runner. You like sometimes too though when it's amazing, like on every RPO after you throw it, you say you should have run it. Well, as soon as you pull out of it, the defense quits pursuing, so the run actually looks a little bit better post. When you didn't hand it off, they're probably pursuing a little bit better. So sometimes those gaping holes maybe aren't quite as open as you thought they're going to be. But I think our linemen are bought into it because with the way we practice and the way we do it, they don't know. And I think linemen do like to just come off the ball to some degree. You don't want to be like backing up all the time. I think that leads to some of the lack of vertical push that we're talking about. The more you're coming off, the more vertical, the better the pad level, the tougher you get. So I think there's a place where whether you hand the ball off or not, I think the linemen feel good about having those calls wherever the ball gets distributed. I don't think they get frustrated by that at all.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that show. Kevin Wilson is always a fantastic, very detailed interview. You do not get a lot of short answers from Kevin Wilson, but you always leave those interviews feeling you're a little smarter about football than you were when you walked in, which is always a nice thing. So figured you guys would enjoy that. I was thinking we'd get some player stuff in here, but Kevin Wilson took up a good bit of time, but it was always very interesting to hear from him and hear his thoughts on football and offense and so much more. So hope you guys enjoyed that show. We'll see if we can get Ross Fulton on for tomorrow or Saturday to give his thoughts on some of the offensive line issues, where the offense might be kind of bogging down right now and what that might mean moving forward with the Purdue game on deck. See if we can get Ross on for one of those shows. But whoever it is tomorrow, we'll be back with another edition of the Morning Scoop tomorrow. You can find it on wherever fine podcasts are sold: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, you name it, it's there. Just search Morning Scoop. You can also find all of our other great shows like Buckeye Weekly and Big Me Kickoff, Give Us in the Bank, Around the Oval, all that great stuff from Buckeye Scoop. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of those. You can subscribe right there and leave us a 5-star rating and review as well, which helps other folks find those shows as well. Finally, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that bell, subscribe to our channels. We are pushing 11,000 subscribers as of the time I'm recording this, which is pretty cool for us. But also that helps you get notified every time we post a new video. So as soon as we post a new live show recapping the college football playoff rankings, or a live pregame show, live postgame show, podcast, you name it, it's all there at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. You get notified. All you got to do is subscribe at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Hit that bell or hit that little Buckeye Scoop logo that'll pop up at the end of this video. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.